Okay. All right. Welcome everybody. Welcome back from break. I feel like we come right back from Thanksgiving break and we're already kind of looking ahead over the next couple of weeks to Christmas and New Year and all the holidays happening. We'll I think we'll probably have, I think, just as folks continue to hop in here this week, next week, the 17th, and then we'll take a break through the new year. Is that about right? Yeah, because that leaves us into New Year's
January
Eve on the
7th, I
24th.
think, be the first Tuesday in January.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Well, yeah, let's get rolling. The topic that we wanted to talk about today is, as we're going into December, what that usually means is let's prepare for January. And I know for especially for Montessori schools, Tim, we were talking before we went live, right? Is that Montessori schools getting a lot of their inquiries and interest November, December, right?
Mhm.
As I ask you that question right while you're eating. Um, so so they're
Well,
getting a lot
my,
of for Montessori school. Go ahead, Tim.
well, I think that one of the things you were saying is that for the typical private school, usually December will get quiet, and it certainly does for Montessori schools too. But I think they tend to get more inquiries because many of our children are young, and there are certain kinds of families who will want to try to get their children into school mid-year if they can. So we may be seeing some activity in December as well.
Okay,
The
interesting.
question is, the question that you wanted to bring up is, a couple of things. One, should we be advertising during January? Excuse me, December, is anyone paying attention? Will we be doing individual tours and meeting with families in December? I think for Montessori school, probably yes, maybe others. And then there's the whole issue of, when should we start pushing the idea that there's a deadline for applications to be submitted? And
Yeah.
your school, are there application deadlines?
Yeah, that's exactly right. A lot of the questions that I'm hearing right now are yes, what should our ad budget be for December? It's hey, we want to advertise for our deadlines. And then also how should we prepare for the new year? And I think we can address all of those because they're interesting conversations, at least the mindset that you should have with those, right? Because thinking about, look, if you're going to advertising about your applications and applications are open, as long as you don't expect somebody to necessarily click an ad and fill out an application, that you're doing it for awareness. Maybe you can do it for retargeting people that are already familiar with who you are. They've been to an event, they've scheduled already. You could do that. It doesn't take a large budget to do that. I'm happy to talk about that in more detail. But yeah, if you think about advertising about your deadlines, fine, right? But as long as you don't expect it, like, hey, we're going to fill a bunch of seats from these ads about having deadlines. Um, well, where I wanted to start, let me share my screen. Tim, can you allow me to share my screen?
Of course. Here you go.
Thank you, sir. Share. There we go. Everybody see that?
Yep.
So what we are looking at, this is Google Trends. And with Google Trends, you can go in and put a keyword in there and you can see what is the search interest that is happening over a specified period of time. In this case, what we're looking at right now is the search term for private schools over the course of 12 months. And I like to look at this to give us some insight into when is the most activity happening on the search engines. And this can also give an indication of how should we budget, right? So let me walk you through really what we're looking at here. And we're actually going to go to the end. We're actually right kind of like right here at the first week in December. And then that leads us into over here where from December, well, now until the new year, we see this major dip. And this is just telling us, look, it's not that it goes to zero, but over the course of the year, search volume on the search engines is going to hit a low point. right? And I don't think that surprises anybody. But let's look at what happens the moment we get to the new year. It spikes. And really it stays and it hovers at this of these high points all the way through the spring, even through Memorial Day weekend, and then you hit the summer and it dips and picks back up again towards the end of the summer, right? So we see these trends every single year. And let's type in Montessori schools. And there's a lot of Montessori schools on here. Let's just see, and yeah, as suspected, similar trend. A dip until end of the year. It peaks. We see that there is a little bit of a dip here from February to March, and then it really peaks again in April, into May. So why is this important? Because this helps us prepare now for January when search interest really skyrockets. And the question is, how do we start taking advantage of that? And the way that you really want to have yourself prepared is especially having, if you're going to be doing advertising, is doing Google search ads, right? So the way to capitalize on the search interest is at the very least having Google advertising running. That doesn't mean you don't have to have it right now. You can lower your budget, but then as you're planning out your budget over January, February, March, that's a good time to really deploy a good portion of that, based upon what the trends are in search volume. And even if this doesn't match your admission cycle, which is many times the case for schools, like, okay, well, our admission cycle is earlier or later, whatever it might be. This is what's happening with the families. So as long as you're still able to accept them, and you don't mind if an application comes in March or April, hey, this is good to know that this is what the families are doing. Is anybody on here? Is anybody doing Google Ads right now?
Is there anyone who isn't?
Yeah. Type in a one if you are using Google Ads, type in a two if you're not, or feel free to unmute. Teresa, you are. So we got some ones, some twos. Renee, you're unsure, no worries. Yeah, and so if you are, right, making sure that those campaigns are dialed in, thinking about your budgeting, and then if you're not, this is a really, like, take these next couple weeks to, if you don't have a Google ad account, go set up your Google ad account. Um, if you look, shameless plug, if you need help with this, that's what our software does. It can help you run these Google ads a lot easier than trying to do it yourself through the Google ad platform. We connect with the Google ad platform, but we make it a lot easier and use some AI to assist in that process. So let us know if you need some help there. But yeah, this is especially a good time if you're not doing it, or if you're new and you're just testing them out. Um, Go ahead and get your Google ad account set up and just start poking around, start playing with it. And we're going to talk today also about digging into Google Ads, because I don't just want to say, hey, go try it. I'm going to give you some tips on what you should keep in mind when setting up these campaigns, because, and maybe let's hop over there right now. And as I'm doing this, I gave a presentation, it was earlier in the year. I'm going to grab a couple slides from that for today. um, does anybody have any questions on Google Ads? Whether those that are new to it, are running it, or thinking about running it, does anybody have any questions they would love to have answered about Google Ads? So let's, Angie, good question, right? How much should we budget? That's the age old question, right? Everybody wants to know how much we should budget. Um, think about it. Think about the best way to answer. Ideally, what you want to do is work backwards. And by that I mean If you're running Google Ads, and let's say your goal is, hey, we want to book tours. Really, what you want to figure out is how much does it cost us to book a tour through Google Ads? Does it cost you $70 per tour, $100 per tour, $150 per tour? We typically see it at about $125 to book a tour. Now we've seen a little bit higher if you're in a more competitive area. It might be a little bit more expensive where your cost per click numbers are a little bit higher. And we've seen it a little bit lower. The lowest I've ever seen is around like $45 to get a tour. But let's just say on average it's around 100. So let's just say even for ease of number purposes, it costs you $100. If you spend $1,000 in a month and it costs you $100 to get a tour, then what you could expect is, hey, we're going to get 10 tours from this $1,000 of ads. And then really what your question should be is that enough? Right? Are we good with that? Are we good with an extra 10 tours in a given month? And if you're not, you're like, well, we would love more. Well, there's two ways to get more. You can either spend more money, that's the easy solution, or is there a way to improve the conversion rate so that instead of getting tours for every $100, can we get tours for every $75? And you do that by improving your ads, improving your website experience. Are you using a self-booking mechanism like a Calendly, or using our platform to book your tours to make it a little bit easier? So there's things that you can do to improve that, but that's how I start thinking about how much does it cost to book a tour. Um, and Renee, you said how much does it cost to book a tour? How do we determine that cost to be able to work backwards? Yeah, you have to set up tracking. You have to have a way to do that tracking. So that again, that was a big part of what we have with our software, is so that you can do that tracking, so that you can run an ad, it tracks who came from that ad, what campaign they came from, and that's you just have to do it. Now, can you do it without our platform? Sure. You just have to set up that tracking, whether it's in Google Ads. You can set it up in Google Ads or Google Analytics and do that tracking. Where ours gets a little bit different is we can do that tracking, and then we can even get it down to the person. What person came from the ad that booked the tour, and then hey, maybe they applied and they enrolled. Um, so you have to be able to set up the tracking. That could be a presentation in itself. If you have questions about that, reach out to me. You can always go on Google. Hey, how do I set up? Really, what you want to set up is conversion tracking. That's what you're trying to do, and that'll give you your overall numbers. Hope that helps. I will say, if anybody is using Blackbaud, if you want to track, let's say inquiries, or if you're doing Blackbaud, I don't know, do they do anything with tours? Let's just say you want them to go through Blackbaud, you can't track it. I've been down this road many times because of how Blackbaud's forms work. You cannot track it. So you can only get so far with that tracking. But what you can do is, in general, hey, we ran ads this month. How many tours did we get? And you start collecting that data. Good questions. Any other questions before we start taking a deeper dive?
I think from an operator's point of view, one of the things I always ask myself is not how much did I budget? It's where, how much cash have I got available? And if I'm successful, if I spend 1,000, how much do I have to potentially gain? So
Yeah.
if you're full and you're in a strong position and you're just doing this on an ongoing maintenance level, you look from year to year and you ask, how much are we getting per conversion? And how can I do it more efficiently? But the other way around it is many of us fail to take action to market aggressively enough, i.e. spend more money, and really take a look at, is our message clear enough that it's causing people to actually come and see our school and fall in love? Are we getting the right people to come to us?
Yeah, it's a great point, Tim. I think that also gets lost, right? Where, if you think about your advertising, hey, if you get one student, right, that'll cover your advertising for the year, if not more. Um, So being able to aggressively advertise, especially during these peaks and knowing when the peaks and valleys are. And I know we're going to talk a lot about Google. That doesn't mean we should forget about Facebook and Instagram because they can provide a good complement. Um, and let me just mention that real quick because thinking about whether maybe you have deadlines coming up, application deadlines. I've been asked a lot recently about deadlines. Should we advertise our deadlines? Um, I've already alluded to this. As long as you don't expect to get a lot of like to just get an application from an ad, but it's to help with your overall um, presence, creating that brand awareness, creating that recall. And by recall, what I mean is what my suggestions have been over the course of this month for deadlines is to do what are called retargeting campaigns. And what retargeting campaigns are, imagine you've had an open house in November, right? A couple open houses. Um, you've had people that have scheduled tours. You have people in your database. You have people who have visited your website in the past 30 days and 60 days and that haven't applied. You have all these people kind of in your ecosystem in one way or another that they know who you are. Some may have just been on your website, some maybe have been on campus. You can run ads to just those people and hopefully get them to come back and let them know about your deadline. So you need a very small budget to do that because it's not a large audience. But even if you had like $5 or $10 a day, you could create those debt application deadline type ads for those people who, again, they're in your database already. They've been on your website. Again, if you need help with that, reach out. We can talk about what that strategy looks like. But that's probably one of the most common questions I've been receiving this month. Tim or Renee, not to put you on the spot, have you ever had any success or be able to track success of running ads based upon deadlines? Well, Tim, you had said with Montessori, right? It's more continuous enrollment.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a really important concept. In some private schools, goal is to put the word out, we're here and this is what makes us unique and we're accepting applications now if you want to take a look and decide to apply. But they create a pool, and for that pool, they evaluate and make their admissions decisions. That is not typical of Montessori schools for two reasons. One, in general, because we are not traditional, there's a different kind of pool of parent who may or may not really know what we're all about and why they would choose us. And they may be looking at us sort of randomly. So we don't get as many good applications as a more traditional, better established school might get. So we'll kiss a lot more frogs. The second is Montessori schools in general are not comfortable only selecting the best. What they look at is the motivation and rightness of fit of the family in terms of their motivations and values. And they ask themselves, is this child likely to blossom at their particular school? It's just a little bit different. Renee, you've run a big school in a very competitive market like Boston. Anything you want to add on terms of your experience?
Sorry, I just had a teacher come in and ask a question. I'm actually in Houston in a private Catholic Montessori school, and um, I'm new to kind of the marketing side of things, as I mentioned, but looking at those interest trends, that kind of correlates with when we get waves of applications and when we get waves of interest. And I think it relates directly to the common reply date and the students getting accepted to one place and then finding themselves in a rally to try and find a different school that will admit their child if they didn't get into their top choice or into one of the very competitive, the more competitive private schools in the area. I don't know if that speaks to the question. I was talking to a teacher during that for a quick moment.
And actually, I forgot there were two Renees online. I was throwing it at Renee Ducheney Farkas to see if she would respond, but I really appreciate that you jumped in. Renee, number two, anything you want to add?
No, I just think, yeah, that's interesting, Q&As. I just think what we're doing at Kingsley still, because I'm in touch with them, is they're just running a lot of open houses versus a lot of social media, and they're getting people to show up. But now they've got signs outside the building that list like 8 open house. I think they do 12 a year now, and I don't see anyone else doing that. But they're getting the traffic.
And what I found, even in Washington, D.C., at the Barry School, we did not typically hold any of those kinds of events that you call an open house. To me, an open
Mhm.
house is a weekly time when your doors are open and you're happy to meet with whoever shows up and talk to them about school and give them a tour, sort of the first date. And that's a different
Mhm.
approach. But on the other hand, with the typical Montessori school, I've not seen the weekend or the evening bring in large numbers of people. That may be a large city kind of thing.
Yeah, and we're right in downtown, so and I do see more schools offering like a standing time on the week they call Take a Look Tuesday or
Yep.
Wednesday Welcome,
Mhm.
and people can come in and don't necessarily have to register, and they just we're all hands on deck and hoping someone shows up, and people do trickle in. And then you get a more intimate one-on-one if it's not a big crowd, so that works too.
As an aside, Clint runs the Newgate School, which is our lab schools program, and he's got it set up so that we have an open house 2 days a week, one for our upper school, one for lower school,
Mhm.
and people do register for a specific event, and we know who they are, and they get the reminders just as if they were booking an individual tour.
Mhm. And it's a little more personalized when it happens that way.
Yeah, because our staff knows who's coming and what the age of their child is, what the
Mhm.
child's name is, whatever you want to gather from them.
Mhm.
I think the big thing is understanding the difference between optimizing the chance that when someone's searching for a school like yours, that they'll be aware of you, which is the Google ad side, versus trying to get the attention of someone who may or may not uh, be in the market, but you think might be interested. So, for example, with Facebook, which is typically used for this, you would usually put in the demographics of the kind of person you're looking for. And then you might start retargeting them. Like if you looked at something on Amazon for the next month, you're typically going to see a lot of ads show up in your Facebook feed about that kind of product.
Mhm.
And
You,
that
you
that,
know, you
that
know
really can
what's
work.
interesting? What's interesting, Tim, nowadays. So I have the unique advantage of, we have probably close to 50 schools that are running ads through our platform. So I get to see what's working, what isn't working. Um, and when you go, if anybody runs Facebook ads, you can go in there and do all the targeting, right? Like I want to run ads to parents. I want to run ads to people that are interested in a private school. The thing that is working the best right now is AI targeting. So we now have the ability to do AI targeting. And so you don't even have to. So then what matters actually, like when you do AI targeting, what you're saying is go find me the families based upon really what your says in your creative. So now more than ever, your creative with your ads is more important. It used to be the creative was always important, but it used to be, hey, I need to make sure I do all my targeting right with my advertising. How do I know I'm getting the ads in front of the right families? They have the ability to for a full pay. They're interested in private school. All those you don't even have to worry about that anymore with your ads. You can with AI now, it'll find you the families. Just give it a couple days or weeks to optimize. And what's most important right now is that you're testing your creative, different images, different videos, different angles of, hey, what's really going to be most
Mhm.
interesting to a family that's looking for a school? And that's really what's working well and trying to find those families now.
Hmm.
And I know we've all been kind of looking at this screen. I think this is a great conversations to have as we're thinking about how to find those families. And I think this is always, some interesting stats, right? What about, according to Niche, they did the parent survey. And this just reiterates that, there's a lot of ways that families learn about a school. They might just know the school, right? Just driving by, or we know that Google does play a significant role, right?
Mm-hmm.
Best schools near me, private schools near me, whatever that they're typing in. So that just kind of hammers home that there's a lot of families doing searches. Let me hit on a couple other things about Google Ads, especially if you're not doing them, right? If you're thinking about them, Google Ads are great because one, we typically see the highest conversion rates happening from them. By that again, I mean, what's a conversion? A conversion can be whatever your goal is. Is our goal to book a tour? Is our goal to register for an open house? Is our goal to show up for, the Take a Look Tuesdays? What is your goal? Well, they have high conversion rates because you're actively putting an ad in front of somebody who has shown intent. They've gone to the search engine, they've typed in private schools near me, then your ad shows up. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how Google Ads work. And there's a lot of ways to do Google Ads. The most common that we're talking about are Google search ads, which I think we've probably all seen, right? Does anybody not know what a Google search ad is? And I apologize if I just kind of jumped right in.
Mm-hmm.
But does anybody here, and it's okay if you don't, because I'm on a lot of conversations if you don't know how these ads work, but is everybody familiar with Google? Is anybody it's not? Even just type in a 2 if you're not. Okay, cool. So Google search ads are the most common. The other thing that I'm seeing work really well right now with Google Ads, especially for filling like group tours, filling open houses, are the other properties that Google owns. So think about like banner ads; those are Google type ads. Ads on the Maps listings, ads in YouTube, ads in your Gmail. So you can actually run ads through Google to all those platforms. It's called Google Performance Max. I'm just going to type that in there just so everybody remembers. Google Performance Max. And I point that out because a lot of times we're very focused on Google search ads and it's still a core, but I'm actually seeing that this is working really, really well um, to get families, to get their attention, to get them to those registration pages. I'm actually thinking, and this is just purely anecdotal, one of the reasons might be the trend in the world right now is, anybody notice, I don't know if anybody's seen this or read about this, that Google searches are on the decline because of AI, because of ChatGPT. People are using these AI platforms to do their searches. Um, so Google search volume is down a little bit. I would not make any drastic changes based upon that. But I think that might be why we're seeing something like a Google Performance Max, which is you can use all Google properties. That even if you're using ChatGPT, you're still going to YouTube. You're still going to check the weather at weather.com, check the scores at ESPN, and then they have banner ads there. So anyway, I digress, and at least just put a pin in that one, put it on your radar in terms of Google Performance Max working really well. So again, Google Ads work really well. They can get you some pretty quick results as well. You can get to the top of the search engines tomorrow for family searching for private schools near me. That's the nice part. You pay per click, right? So even if you show up but nobody clicks on it, you don't pay. Typically, what you can expect is on average roughly $3 per click. I've seen them upwards of $6 or $7 per click in some very competitive areas. I've seen them in other areas where they're less than $1. Areas in Canada, a couple schools I'm working with in like San Diego area. I expect in San Diego to be more expensive, but I'm seeing like less than $1 per click in that area. So you can have wide ranges of cost per click. Many times based upon the competition. Sometimes you don't really know until you get going. But typically on average, we look at it at a benchmark of around $3 cost per click. Let's see what else we got here. Yes, Google Ads straightforward. Hold on. Just want to go to a couple things here. I want to talk about keyword research because I think this is very important that if you're new to Google Ads or even if you're not new, go and check the words that you're bidding on. So how Google works is you put in the keywords that you want to show up for. Okay, I want to show up for private schools in Philadelphia, private schools near me, high schools near me, right? You're going to put in all these keywords that you want to show up for. The biggest mistake that I see schools make is they pay to show up for their own school name. So we call that branded search. The only time you ever want to show up or pay for your own school name is if you type in your school name and you're not number one organically, or there's somebody else bidding against you, which you can do. You can bid against your competitors. Who wants to take a guess? Why do I say don't bid for your own school name? Anybody want to venture a guess? Anybody brave?
They're already looking for it.
And who might already be looking for it? Many times your parents, right? Right. I remember one time we were running a campaign and we had a call tracking number on the landing page. So if somebody booked or somebody wanted to schedule a call, they could use the number. It would go to their front desk, but it was a number that was tracked. You could actually record it. They wanted to record how those calls were going, just hear what families were asking. And what did we find? More than half of those calls were from existing parents. I need to drop off lunch money. My kid's upset at recess. We're like, these were not the calls that we should have gotten from these ads. And it was because the school's name, they were paying for the school name. And what'll end up happening is, let's say you had $1,000 budget. I bet you would spend over $500 of your $1,000 budget, more than 50% on your school name, which many times will be your current families. And Renee, to your point, if they're already searching for you, that's why I said, like, if you're not number one and they're already searching for you, you're good. I only saw that happen one time, and I don't know if anybody's from the school on here, but I was working with a school. They were called the Independent School. So you type in independent school, like, well, that's a whole host of schools that want to show up for independent school, and that was a good time for them to pay for the keyword. But outside of those rare examples, don't pay. The other thing that's really important are the keywords you don't want to show up for. For example, probably the most common one I've seen, especially with Montessori schools, the one you have to be really careful about, or if you have a preschool in general, is the keyword daycare. Right? You might want families that are searching for a daycare, but there's some families that might be just searching for a daycare. And if you want to target them, you might get a lot of clicks, and then maybe they realize, oh, this is a school. I don't want to pay for a school or whatever it might be. So as long as if you're going to pay for the term daycare, make sure your ads explicitly state, like, we're more than a daycare or we're a school. Just be really, really vigilant about paying for a keyword like that, because I've seen that where you pay a lot and you don't see the results from it. Other negative keywords, hey, you wouldn't want to show up when they say public, or what about things like learning differences, special needs, things like that. Some schools want to show up, some schools don't. Be very careful about those keywords that you want to pay for, because if somebody types in, schools for dyslexia, right? Maybe you're okay with bringing in those families, but maybe you don't have specialized programs, whatever it might be. I've just seen that happen enough where, yeah, we would love those families, but how much of your budget do you want to go towards that, and are you the right fit for them? So those are called negative keywords. Any questions on keywords? Let me highlight a couple other things here to help you in building your Google campaigns, just thinking about how to make them as successful as possible and avoid some common mistakes. The other common mistake I see with building out Google Ads is not breaking out your ad groups based upon your grade levels. So let's just say you have preschool all the way through grade 12. And obviously for the Montessori schools, preschool likely up to grade 8, even though Newgate obviously goes into grade 12. you have the ability to have ad groups. So if somebody's searching for preschool, let's put those keywords in a group, and then the ads are going to relate to that search. So therefore, you want to make sure in your ad copy you say, "Hey, best preschool in Sarasota," right? And if somebody's looking for a high school, you're going to have high school related copy and middle school related copy. Probably too often I see schools jumble everything up. Like, yeah, we want to show up for middle school and high school and preschool and private schools and Montessori schools, and they put them all in one campaign. And then what it is, it becomes a very general ad for families that are searching for maybe something specific. So the more specific that you can get, the better you're going to see conversions. Let me see if I have examples on there. Yeah, so I just wanted to show you that within a Google ad, you're very limited in what you can do with your headlines and your descriptions. So you want to be very specific about who am I targeting, what's in my copy, what's going to get somebody to stop scrolling. And so usually what I like to include is, what's my call to action? Join us for Touring Tuesday. What is the grade level that I'm serving? Top private high school in PA, serving grades K to 8, or something along those lines. Let me see what else we have here. Just want to point out a few other things. Oh, the other thing that I've seen, which really can impact your costs, is actually two things, three things. One is the competition. We already talked about that. Two is the landing page experience, is where they're landing, getting them to stay on the page and click and convert. If it's not, if they're clicking the page and leaving, Google actually penalizes you for that, and they will do that in the form of higher costs. Another way they can kind of penalize you is, I think, hold on. Yeah, okay. Another way they can penalize you for it if your ad doesn't seem as relevant to the search term. Meaning, let's say you want to attract middle school families. If somebody types in private middle schools, make sure middle school is in your ad. Otherwise, Google will lower your quality score and charge you a higher cost for that click. Same thing with kindergarten. And if you say private school, make sure private school is there. If it's Montessori, obviously make sure Montessori is in there. So make sure that the keywords you're using to target, to the best of your ability, they're in your ad as well. Thanks, Teresa. My pleasure. Any questions about Google Ads? I know we kind of went down a little bit of a Google rabbit hole, but I think it's important. I bring this up today because, again, it's being able to prepare for it in January. And if you haven't used it, this is a good time to start investigating Google, because it can be a really great way to help you get more tours, fill more seats. How are we doing on time? We're at 1:40.
We're in good shape.
Cool. Let's see here. Make sure I didn't miss anything. All right.
I think one of the things that your talk is giving me personally is just a reminder that unless you're really dedicated to understanding how all this works, there's really an advantage to using an agency and having somebody like yourself or folks like you, who really help a school maximize the results of what it's spending. And I think people get confused. They pay you for your service, your software, whatever, and then they make an investment in the ad buys. And I think, again, most businesses would spend well above 10% of their income a year to market, whereas a typical private school doesn't even spend 5%. And they, as long as that's working, That's great. But for a lot of schools are struggling, they don't understand the direct correlation between aggressively doing community relationship and marketing and how many kids you've got in the school and how much money's coming in. I think next week we're going to talk about retention, because one of the things I think we can agree right now is it's a lot easier to keep a family in the school than it is to go out and get a brand new one who doesn't even know that you exist.
Mhm.
So we really want to put a lot of effort into that, right, Renee?
Yep, absolutely. I'm really big on the retention. I think that might be an interesting thing to see what people are thinking about now as far as pretty soon we'll be sending out re-enrollment contracts, right?
Right.
And it's upon us already. And what kind of things are people doing to kind of, get support the parents and families and make sure that there's nothing going on that you might be surprised about. I think if families are applying out, we probably have heard from the school they're applying to by now, right? For records. But I just wonder what other things people might be doing to enhance the potential for retention. Retention committees are more and more popular now, where anyone who hears any whisper of a child visiting another school or a parent not happy, that we bring that to the retention committee, and then somebody reaches out to the parent, because we always have to think we don't want to lose somebody without having put maximum effort into retaining them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people hear things in the strangest places about what might be going on.
Always
Teresa,
those parent groups, those Facebook parent groups. Just
yeah,
kidding.
Mhm.
oh, absolutely. Oh, when you start seeing things like somebody asks for a recommendation on schools, and somebody says DM me, which means direct message me, and what they want
Yeah,
to
Yeah.
do is they want to trash a particular school.
right.
Teresa, I noticed that you said that you had a lot of withdrawals, and boy, I saw that for the first time in 40 years last year. It's really horrible experience to see it. So working on customer satisfaction and relationship is incredibly important. So just to remind you all who are here, some of you don't know Clint or don't know me or don't know Renee. Renee and I are part of the Montessori Foundation, and we are nonprofit private school consultants who specialize in Montessori schools, but both of us have worked with and are happy to counsel private schools of any type, large and small. Both of us have run really big schools, done it for a lot of decades. And we can help with anything from, strategic planning, board development, marketing planning, you name it. And a lot of the things that Clint, I think, has been tickled with is I've been throwing out things along the way to him about, what makes the phone ring from my experience. And Clint represents AIMS, which is automated, remind me again, automated admission. No,
Admissions inquiry and marketing software.
there you go. We,
Oh,
we have to we have to work on the acronym.
I know
But
you've never
I
liked
think
it. We'll come up with a better one.
I think very highly of you, Clint, and what I've seen you do. You did great work when you're working with ISM, which Renee and we've worked with them for years. We think very highly of them. We also know that they're of a different breed. They're very expensive,
mhm.
and they're more for people who have big budgets, and we're more affordable. What I appreciate about you and what you're doing with Ames is you're young, you're hungry, you know a lot, and you're doing a lot of really good stuff. And Renee and I monitor the market of people doing all kinds of things for private schools, Montessori or otherwise. And we like all of them, whether it's Hubley or Nido Marketing or Montessori Agency or Go Montessori, there's a whole bunch of them. I appreciate that what you've got, as you described, is like HubSpot, which can be really expensive to use for Montessori schools. And you're doing a lot of really tightly focused work, and it's not just for Montessori schools, it's for private schools. But I think that I really appreciate the value that you give, and I don't get paid for this. It's just me talking. I
Checks in the mail.
Yeah, checks in the mail, right? You do it for my school, and I appreciate what you do.
Well, yeah, no, Tim, I appreciate it, and yeah, you know, in any way that that's why we do this webcast together, right? It's just provide as much resource and support as possible, and along those lines, what I put in the chat. One, I put a link over to your site as well, Montessori.org, for the folks that need consulting. Those that want to maybe just take a deeper dive into their marketing right now. I put a link in there for a marketing report. I've had a lot of schools over the past month take me up on this. It's free. We run a report for you over the course of an hour. We run through how are you performing, what are the areas that you need to strengthen, and we go through your whole digital presence, your ad strategy, and come up with a game plan. And then it's up to you. You can take the game plan, do it on your own. If you want our help, yes, we have the software side, and then over the past couple of months, we've layered in some done with you and done for you services for those that, yeah, would like the software, but could you just help us get those ad campaigns set up, help us get the automation stuff set up. So we can help you in a variety of ways, from giving you the software and the training to actually doing it for you.
Rupali, I see Rupali's got her hand up.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Hi, thank you so much. This was very helpful. I was curious to know, to get like from keywords to getting traction on our Google ads, how often should we track the Google ad analytics and tweak them or change something to help the Google ads work better?
It's a great question.
I know
let
there's
me ask.
like a ramp up time it takes.
Mm-hmm. You're correct. There is a bit of a ramp up time, a learning period. That's definitely more on I would say on the meta side, because you could pay for a keyword tomorrow and be there. With that being said, let me ask you, what is your ad budget on average?
About $500 to $750 per month.
Okay. Yeah. So what I would probably do is look over the course of like maybe every other week, something like that, like every 2 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks, in that range. It's okay to take a look. And I asked you about your ad budget because, look, the more budget you put into it, the quicker you get results. The quicker you get results, that means the quicker you get data. So if you said, I had a couple schools recently, they were spending $200, $300 a day, which is probably the most I've seen from many schools running ads. And I was like, okay, we were looking at that every few days, because we're getting a lot of data really quick, and we want to make some decisions based upon that. We don't want to let that go too long. You're doing, the ad range that you were saying, 500, 750. That's about average for a lot of schools are doing, anywhere from 500 to 1,000. Yeah, every let's say 2 to 4 weeks, taking a look at it and I should say taking a look at it and maybe potentially making an adjustment. So the question is, yes, take a look at it, but then when do we want to change things? That's the real question, is when do we want to update or change things? And usually that's after a few weeks. I would start making those changes in terms of, hey, this is costing us a lot, or we're not seeing conversions from it. So I hope that helps answer your question. So I would say every 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm glad you asked that, Rupali.
Do we have to, may I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
Yeah. So would you recommend that during the admission season, we have a higher budget and other times of the year have a lower budget, or should we keep it all the same throughout the year?
Yeah, it's a great question. In general, kind of following along the lines of those trends, you could ramp up your budget based upon that, which is, hey, December, maybe let's lower it a little bit, and then January ramp it up. So that's a good time. Now, it also should revolve around what your schedule is as well, that if you have an event, let's say, coming up, maybe an open house or an information session or something along those lines, I would ramp up the budget 30 days prior to that event, so that you give yourself 3 to 4 weeks for a little bit of the learning period, dial in some of the analytics and what's performing. So yeah, that's my usual recommendation is give yourself about those 30 days for a ramp up period prior to, let's say again, an event or something that you want to promote.
Thank you.
Great question.
So again, just for those of you that are on, the Montessori Foundation organizes these weekly webcasts, and we have several that happen in the course of a week. This one every Tuesday, or normally every Tuesday, except for holiday vacations, is focused specifically on marketing. But we have a general leadership topic webinar that happens every Wednesday. And the Montessori Foundation works in all aspects of school, from designing of ads and video and printed brochures or digital brochures, websites. Clint does a lot of that stuff too, and does really good work. We also work on board development, on strategic planning, on campus design, building design, financial analysis, development of your staff. We do teacher training. We're involved with higher education, do all kinds of stuff that is useful to schools in all 9 areas of the school operation, and development of your leadership team, selection of software, you name it. So just to remind you, every week we're recording this session. We post it on the Montessori Foundation's YouTube channel. It's there for anyone to see. You can see all of them from the beginning. We also put a summary normally of what was talked about. And for all of us who are registered for the weekly webcast, we send the link to the video, and we send usually a transcript and a summary of what we discussed, which hopefully is helpful to you, because these are not meant to be quick, simple, mindless kinds of things. We're trying to go into some depth. We really encourage people to participate as you are, Dupali. We want people to really get involved. And thank you, Renee, as the second Renee and the new Renee. Really glad to have you get involved.
Yeah, that was just great. Thanks, Tim. And so again, for next week, Renee, I think we're going to be going more in depth on re-enrollment, retention, all that good stuff, right?
And Renee, you asked a question about site to go. So where you go is YouTube, and you type in Montessori Foundation, and that'll bring you to our channel. And we have years and years of webcasts, but many of them are firewall protected for our members. But this particular series we're making publicly available.
I was just going to get a link.
And Renee, when you sign up for this series, you should be in, period. You don't have to do it every week. So what you want to do is add it to your calendar, and you can just join whenever you want. If you're on the list, Clint, when do you normally send out a reminder to people?
Yeah, usually be the morning of, and then the go live. So yeah, again, anybody that is registered, you're automatically you're automatically registered for all the sessions. It should also go right into your calendar as well, so you get your normal calendar reminders.
And we don't always know what topic we're going to cover, because among other things, if you all came here with a topic that was different than ours, we would just change what we're doing to meet your needs. But we are planning, Renee and Clint and I, to sit down and map out a general calendar of major topics that we want to cover. So the foundation normally sends out an email with that sort of information every Saturday in what's called Montessori Times. And if you want to get onto that email list, you can easily go to Montessori Foundation, just say join our mailing list. So Montessori.org.
Perfect.
All right, everyone.
All
Well, we've
right.
got a few minutes to spare. Any last words from anyone?
All right. Well, thanks everybody. We'll see you next week. We're going to talk some retention
Oh,
strategies.
hang on.
Oh,
Let's have a look what Rupali said. She's got a workshop on open house strategies that might be helpful. That would be interesting.
I didn't
Don't
see
you
that.
think? Yeah. Yeah, she just
Oh,
put it in.
I just sent a private chat
Okay.
to Renee, but
Oh,
I
I
don't
didn't know
know
it was private. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
Renee's revealing
But, yeah,
secrets.
I just thought if it, because you're talking about enrollment, we've tried a few different formats for open house for
Mhm.
different age groups, and
Mhm.
you bring parents in the school, and I was wondering if that might be of interest to the group.
Love it.
Absolutely.
I
Okay,
think so,
so
because we
we'll
have so
connect
much
and
to
we'll
learn
take it
from each
from
other. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
Rupali. I didn't see it was a
No,
private message.
I was just curious. So thank you.
Okay. Great. All right, we'll be in touch about
This
that.
is wonderful. Thank you very much. It's very,
Yeah.
very
Thanks for
helpful.
joining.
Well, tell the people you know, we encourage folks to attend, and if we're going to spend this
Absolutely.
time, we want to reach as many people as we can.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
All right,
We'll
thanks.
see you all
Take
next
care,
week.
everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.